critics of this would say eating all that meat and saturated fat, you're putting yourself at risk for heart disease. I would say you were at far higher risk for heart disease 3 or 4 years ago when you're 450, 500 pounds, undoubtedly. So you've clearly improved that. Do you have any concerns about that? Is it something that you think about? Did you ever try a plant-based approach? I mean, a lot of people would say, hey, let's go on a vegan diet. Let's do that. You can lose some weight. Was that ever something you had considered or attempted?
No, because even as a 500-pound guy, I thought vegans were crazy. In fact, my wife loves to tell the story. There's a couple that we're friends with that she knew the wife before the four of us started hanging out together. And one day the wife reached out to her and she said, "Does your husband hate vegans?" And my wife said, "Oh no, what did this idiot post on Facebook that somebody saw and it got back to her? Maybe her husband's a vegan or whatever." And come to find out, her husband hates vegans too. So that it kind of worked out in our favor, and we became good friends. Actually, it's the same friend that brought up Jordan Peterson to me, a couple of years later. So ironically, that worked out fairly well. But no, I've always thought that vegans were a little bit nuts. To each their own. If it works for you, there's a guy I know that I speak to fairly regularly on Instagram who started off as a raw vegan and was doing all right for himself. And, even now after, so I actually met him through comments on one of your posts. Even now, he's alternating between, veganism and eating some meat. He eats the grass-fed, grass-finished, all organic stuff. And he's absolutely loving it. So even the nutcases can be turned around, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of them that were very critical and, thought I was the worst person in the world. And then, a year or two later, they're saying, "Hey, Dr. Baker, sorry, you were right, I was wrong." And, again, I don't hate vegans, just to put that out there, but I do think when they try to enforce their dietary preferences on me or say I'm evil or something like that for choosing to eat like human beings have been eating for, God, millions of years or thousands of years, depending on your perspective, I think that's a problem. So anyway, so let me ask you, were you working at 500 pounds? And I mean, I would imagine it'd be difficult to have a job at that weight. Maybe you could, some people do, but, and what are you doing these days?
No, I was not employed at all at that point. It just wasn't physically possible to be able to work. My wife has always worked in human services, so she was carrying the bulk of the financial responsibility at that point, just because I physically couldn't. I tried for years. I was doing some property maintenance type stuff for a while on my own as a vendor, and it was very difficult. I remember before the full weight kind of took hold, I was mowing the lawn at a house, and I was so heavy that I actually flipped the lawnmower over, and it almost landed on top of me. I was lucky to get out from under it before it hit me. And at that point, I realized, okay, I've got a serious problem here, but I don't. Other than getting this surgery, I don't know how to fix it. So it was a matter of, the doctors had told me when the lymphedema set in that, it's because you're heavy, it's because you're overweight, and I lost 50 pounds, and the lymphedema just got worse. So it definitely didn't have anything to do with the weight at that point. It was something seriously wrong with my body, and it took the right doctor to be able to fix it, get that taken care of. Now I actually work 2 jobs. My wife and I own Connecticut's first dedicated CBD store. So I don't necessarily hate on the plants, just certain ones. I won't ingest them myself other than, some good old hemp at that point. But that's what we do. We sell hemp products here at our store. And I also host trivia a couple of nights a week, which is more of a paying hobby than it is a job at this point. But it is a little bit of extra cash. And I'm an entertainer at heart. So any chance I get to be out in front of people and be on a microphone and act like an asshole, that's pretty much what I love to do. So it's what I do best, and I run with it as much as I can.
Well, I got to tell you this, you mentioned, other people inspired. This is very inspiring, and I've run across, a number of people now that have lost in excess of 200 pounds on a carnivore diet, but it's just not that common. You just don't see that many people that are 500 pounds even today, although more than you would have 20 years ago for sure. I guess, and I'm sure you do this now, you say you help people. What advice do you give people typically as far as, people that come to you? And I don't know if you get a lot of morbidly obese people that identify with what you did. Is that who you tend to get reaching out to?
Yeah, I get a lot of those. For the most part, that's basically what it is. People who are kind of at the end of their rope. They've tried other things. They've tried low fat. They've tried low calorie. They've tried this. They've tried that. They've tried keto, and it's worked for a while and gotten to a point where they just can't do it anymore. And they need to kind of break out of that. So that's a lot of it. The vast majority of people, I tell them, you just need to start. get it going, get moving now. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself, oh, I'm going to start on Monday. I'm going to, binge all weekend and then start on Monday, because it's going to be even more difficult at that point to get started. So just start now. And if you fall off the wagon, you fall off the wagon, you jump right back on again. It's not the end of the world. People are going to have blips. They're going to have mistakes. I also tell them, don't necessarily compare yourself to anybody else, especially not me. Don't compare your journey to mine, because we're two totally different people with two totally different sets of circumstances. I had the benefit of a few months of therapy before I started eating carnivore, and I think that helped to deal with the emotional eating aspect of everything. So a lot of the people I talk to, I've got one guy in particular that I talk to on Instagram all the time that struggles a lot with binge eating. And I tell him, you got to get into therapy and talk to somebody and get your family on board and have them understand that you need to do this to save your life, because you can't run around doing what you're doing, at almost 40 years old at 400 pounds for the rest of your life. It's not going to work. And you got young kids, you can't run the risk of dying early and leaving your wife and your kids alone. You got to do something, and they've got to understand where you're coming from and why you're making these changes. And it's just a matter of getting started and sticking with it and being as dedicated as you possibly can.
I guess it's been, 2.5 years or so. I think you said January 2020. So it's, a little over 2.5 years now. Were there periods of time during this carnivore journey that you did struggle with cravings or binge eating issues? Did that ever pop up during that journey?
Honestly, no. For me, I decided when I was going into this, I'm a big movie freak. John Wick is one of my favorite characters in movies. And I told myself I was going to be the John Wick of carnivore. I was going to be a man of pure focus and determination and willpower, and that I was not going to let anything shake me. And it is not. I do get my cravings here and there. Sometimes I'll be at a store and I'll go to pay for gas, and I see the Reese's peanut butter cups on the register, and I'm like, oh man, those look good. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat them because I'm going to feel like crap, and it's going to make me gain weight back, and it's just not worth having that garbage. So what purpose does it serve to eat it? I've determined, very early on that food is fuel. Mm-hmm. It's not a reward. It's not a punishment. It's fuel. And that's all it should be used for. It's not, you don't have to eat to live, or you have to eat to live, but you don't have to live to eat. So once I took that out of the equation and food just became a source of energy for me to make it through my day and get things done and to, maneuver around life, it just became so much easier. And the cravings, the little cravings that I had, they went away very quickly.